She's been discussing some about the fear concerning any unpopular verdict, and to quote her, basically fear that this could end in riots or peaceful demonstrations, but she found some of the protesting unsettling to her. Let's bring in our attorney, Esther Panitch, great criminal defense attorney who's been watching this. All right, Esther, what's your headline at this point concerning the makeup of this jury? And let's start with 20 women, 9 men.
I think that's a lot of women, 20 out of 29, and the majority of them are white. So it's an interesting makeup. Now, again, they have 11 more to go through, and this is not the final 6. We have to pare down the 40 to 6, plus, I presume, a couple alternates. So we're not there yet. We don't know what the ultimate makeup of this jury will be.
Yeah, you know, you're absolutely right. Who are the 6? That's the big question. I believe it's going to end up being 4 alternates. Hey, let's hit on some other news here. One thing coming up, we know, the Fry hearing concerning voice recognition experts. And explain to our viewers, is that still a battle about the science of voice recognition, or is it more of a specific battle about who the defense or the state, i.e. really the state, who they're going to bring into trial?
No, it's really about the science of voice recognition, and the newest technology hasn't been accepted by the scientific community. And the confusion is not just it's not just about Fry, but Florida is one of the few states that still goes by the Fry standard. Most of the states and the federal system use the Daubert standard, which is a little different. And in Fry, there's an exception that says you can use the expert's pure opinion. And it could be noted as that expert's pure opinion, even if it's not based on the science, as long as it's based on their training and experience. So if the judge wants to let this technology in, even if it has not been widely tested and generally accepted by the scientific community, the judge can let it in.
Got it. Okay, we're going to continue to monitor what's going on there as we see a look into court. And there's George Zimmerman and his defense team. One other thing, we'll talk about it next time we chat with Esther. Prosecutors will not use the word profiled in their statements. That's big for the defense. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Esther Panitch to help really clue us into how important this is, Esther, when you talk about this Fry hearing and voice recognition. If you get a convincing expert to say one way or another that's either George Zimmerman or Trayvon Martin yelling for help, that'd be huge in this case.
That would be huge in this case. And I expect if the Fry evidence is allowed in, the voice recognition or voice admissibility is allowed in, then you're going to have both experts. You're going to have experts for the state and experts for the defense. And it's going to be a credibility question for the jurors. Which expert do they believe more? Or are they going to discount both experts and decide and make their own decision of whose voice it was based on other witness testimony? But this is very, very important, especially because this is new and evolving science. So are these principles generally accepted in the scientific community? That's the Fry standard. Of course, we should note, as of July 1st, 2013, the Fry standard is gone in Florida. It is now coming into line with the federal rules of evidence and the remaining state jurisdictions, or most of the state jurisdictions, which follows what's known as the Daubert standard. So in Florida, the legislature has just decided that Fry is not the current standard, and Daubert is a little stricter and has a 3-pronged test. If for any lawyer nerds who want to know about it, it's a stricter test. But there's also an exception in Fry, which says that a witness, an expert, or proposed expert, can give pure opinion evidence that may not be backed up by science. So it really, you know, Fry has kind of has been watered down so much that now an expert can just give an opinion based on their training and experience, but it doesn't have to be based in science.
Hey, well, how does the FBI fit in? Because the FBI expert tried and said the audio quality was so poor they could not tell who it was.
Well, I think
you think that's going to rule? Do you think the jurors will listen to that above the other 2 sides if it's all allowed in?
Probably. I mean, they might feel that the FBI, with the most recent technology, is going to be more credible than somebody that either the state pays or the defense pays. So the FBI also, this is reasonable doubt for someone who's going to claim that the voice was Trayvon. If the FBI couldn't even figure it out, then who's to say why the state's expert is right?
Got it. Okay, Esther, thanks again. We're going to...
All right, well, with me today on our panel, Gene, criminal defense attorneys Joey Jackson, he's in New York. Esther Panitch is with me here in Atlanta, and also author and journalist Deneen Milner. As a mom and attorney, Esther, I mean, that is what we are focusing on here on Raising America, is that human. There's a lot of technicalities of what's going on right now, but we like to discuss the human element of this trial and why so many people are drawn to it.
That's right. And of course, as Deneen said, we need to see the evidence. That's the only thing the jurors should be taking into account when they render the verdict. The evidence that they heard and the law. And that's it. Race should not play a factor in this. Now, of course, as jurors, we all come in with our own life experience. So if somebody has been discriminated against on any level, black or white, they're going to bring that with them into the jury room. But logic and the law and the evidence before the jurors has to prevail. That's what the law is all about.
Esther, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I actually disagree with Joey, although most of the time I agree with him. I think in this case, the Frye standard has an exception in Florida. It's the pure opinion exception. And so because an expert has their training and experience, they can base their opinion just on that, even if the science hasn't caught up yet. I think that's one of the reasons that the Frye standard will no longer be the standard in Florida as of July 1st, 2013, because it's basically been watered down. If an expert can just get up there without the science and say, well, it is because I say so. So I believe that the judge will let this in because of where the law stands right now. But if this trial was in a few months, I don't know that the evidence would be as admissible.
So, Esther, what are police hoping to accomplish with mom in jail?
They're hoping to accomplish that she'll talk, or that the family who was standing outside, who may have known that the child was missing, talks. And they're trying to see what clues they can get to the whereabouts of this child and who really was in who had contact with the child last, and what happened between the time that they had contact and all of a sudden the child is missing. I mean, it's horrible. Hopefully someone will talk and at least let authorities know where the child is.
Now, Levon's father says that he was locked out of the house. He put his son on the front porch while he went around the back door. By then, he says the son was gone. Police say Dad has now lawyered up. Okay, everyone's shaking their head here.
It sounds a little like a Casey Anthony. You know, this child has been missing for a couple weeks before the dad reports him. Who does that? I can't let my kids out of my sight for a minute.
At what point, Esther, do you prosecute?
I think when there's severe physical aggression and property aggression, that might be the correct time. I have 2 younger brothers. I have 3 kids. There's some ribbing that goes back and forth on a daily basis. But fortunately, or at least the way I remember it with my 2 younger brothers, we never really physically got into it. But I think if there is some, and you also have to see the ages of the kids and where they are in the dynamic. And was this a outpouring? You know, was this a response, or was this an aggression that was unprovoked?
So Cosby told the crowd at Temple, it's more important to be right than be liked. Mom, Esther?
I agree with that. We are not always our children's friends, nor should we be. We have to guide them. We have to set limits for them. If you want to be their friends, then those limits, those boundaries sometimes go away because you know they're not going to like some of the things you have to say. My job is to make sure my kids are safe and a nurturing environment is provided to them. Happiness falls a little by the wayside sometimes, and really my priority is not to be their friend. I am, by the way, they don't want to be my friend because I embarrass the heck out of them. So,
you're not cool enough, I guess, Esther. You have to work on that.
Be cool enough for them.
As attorneys, I mean, Esther, where does your gut go on that?
Well, usually I pick that up when witnesses say that, and I usually cross-examine on that because when they say, well, let's be honest, and have you not been honest with us this entire time? Why are you being honest now and not before? So there's plenty of room to cross-examine someone on that. But you don't know George Zimmerman. You don't know if that's just a phrase he uses all the time. Just like people say, yeah, you know, I just did it. There are speech patterns that people use that may just be part of their vocabulary that do not reflect on the fact that he is not being truthful.
So it's a beautiful
thing. I do too, and it's for him as well. The forgiveness is for him to let go of the daily anger I don't even know if it's so much for the woman who's been released as it is for him, so he can move on with his life and honor his grandmother and think about how she lived as opposed to how she died, which is what he just said.
How have you taken your personal experience, Esther, as a mom now with your family?
Well, I agree with Deneen, and if there's any physical aggression, that's where I draw the line. I don't want any physical aggression. Now, that being said, if I'm not in the room and somebody is physical, then the child who was the victim of that has the right to defend themselves. So, but it doesn't mean that they can do anything unprovoked. So once it's physical, I want to know about it, and then we'll handle it. But the little chatter, you know, I think that just comes with the territory.